This looks perfectly precise, but it doesn't actually fit together. And that's the problem with laser cutting. The machine is accurate, but the material isn't. So I decided to make a custom wall piece based on a BMW for a friend of mine, which is slightly ironic, because he also owns a BMW, and just like this project, his car looks perfect, but if you look closely, things don't always line up. I started by recreating the car in woodworks, trying to get all the proportions and details right. And with something like this, you spend a lot of time chasing precision on the screen. Even though you already know that once you move to real materials, things tend to become a bit more negotiable, kind of like BMW options lists. For the base, I used a sheet of white MDF, clean, simple, predictable, basically the most reliable part of the entire build. And then, almost immediately, I decided to mess it up with this splatter spray that creates these random black patterns. The idea is that it looks intentional. In reality, you just commit and hope nobody asks questions. Once that dried, I moved on to the car itself, cut from black MDF, including his license plate. Because if you're going to personalize something, you might as well make sure it's more accurate than the badge on his car. This is where laser cutting really shines: clean edges, sharp details, everything looks perfect, at least, until you try to assemble it. For the frame, I used solid oak. Cut everything at 45 degrees so the corners actually come together cleanly. At least that's the goal. This is one of those moments where you either get perfect joints, or you start convincing yourself that small gaps add character. After that, I glued the frame together using corner clamps, which are great, assuming your cuts are accurate enough to begin with. If they're not, the clamps don't fix anything. They just give you more time to think about your mistakes. To make the whole piece more rigid, I added laser-cut plywood reinforcements on the back. 6mm plywood for structure, and thinner layers for integrated wall mounts, so this thing doesn't just look good, but also stays where it's supposed to be, unlike certain German vehicles in winter. And of course, at this point, something didn't fit. One of the reinforcements was just slightly off. Not enough to notice immediately, but just enough to ruin your mood. Which is honestly the most realistic part of this entire BMW-themed project. So I trimmed it down a bit, made a small adjustment, and suddenly it fits again. Exactly like planned. Definitely not a fix. Once everything was in place, I glued the base into the frame and added some weight on top while it dried. In this case, gym plates, which felt appropriate.
One eternity later.
Because my friend goes to the gym, and I lift wood. This is probably the most useful his gym habits have been so far. After the glue set, I engraved the frame with a small signature. Nothing too flashy, just enough so he remembers who actually made something that works. Then a bit of sanding to clean everything up, smooth out the edges, and remove any evidence of poor life decisions. Then came the oiling. This is where everything suddenly looks expensive. The oak grain pops, the color deepens. And for a moment, it almost feels like a finished product. With the frame done, I moved on to attaching the car silhouette. Carefully aligned it on the base, pressed it into place. And yes, added more weight. At this point, I'm not even woodworking anymore. This is just strength training with extra steps.
One eternity later.
Finally, the license plate. Each character placed individually into its slot, which sounds simple. Until you realize how precise everything actually needs to be. It's one of those steps that takes way longer than expected. But if you rush it, it shows immediately. And that's it, a custom BMW-inspired wall piece. Clean, detailed, and surprisingly better aligned than the real thing. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in how laser cutting actually behaves, materials, tolerances, real-world results, consider subscribing. And if you drive a BMW, don't worry. This one actually fits together. I'll see you in the next one.